Okay, number 4 says we can use a calculator if necessary. We want to try to figure out, does the parabola open up or down? Does the vertex reach a max or a min? And then I'm going to find the coordinates of the vertex and leave my answer as a fraction if necessary. So, again, this first number here in front of the x squared tells me whether or not it opens up or down. If that number is positive, then it opens up. If it's negative, it opens down. So I already know, since it's a positive 2, my parabola is going to open up. If it opens up, then it looks something like this. So I have a minimum because I have a lowest point. So I got a min on part B. Now to find the vertex, I need to find negative b over 2a. So I have negative b, which is the number in front of x. So b is 5. Over 2 times a, and a is 2, which would give me negative 5 over 4. So that's the x coordinate of your vertex. To find the y coordinate, I just have to plug that in. That's what this means. I need to plug that in for x. So f of negative 5 over 4 would equal 2 parentheses negative 5 over 4 squared plus 5 times negative 5 over 4 minus 7. I'm just going to use my calculator to do that. Again, I'm just going to type that in exactly how it's written. So 2 parentheses negative 5 divided by 4 parentheses squared plus 5 parentheses negative 5 divided by 4 parentheses minus 7. Now it gives me a decimal, but I told you guys I wanted this to be written as a fraction. So there's a button here, it says F arrow T, that changes it from a decimal to a fraction. So you can hit the blue button, the second, and then the PRB button, and then hit equals. Now this changed it to an improper, I take that back, this changed it to a mixed number, negative 10 and 1/8. I just prefer it as an improper fraction. So above the A, B/C button, this means I can change it from a mixed number to an improper fraction. So now I can hit second, that button. So the answer would be negative 81 over 8. So that's the y coordinate of your vertex. Okay, number 5, I want to solve quadratics using square roots or with square roots. So in other words, I'm just trying to get the x squared by itself. So here I'd have to subtract 7 from both sides. So I get x squared equals 49. And then the opposite operation of squaring is square root. And the square root of x squared is x. And again, since I'm doing square root, I'm going to have two answers. I'm going to have plus or minus, and then the square root of 49 is 7. 6 deals with factoring quadratics. So again, got a trinomial here, 6x squared minus 13x minus 5. So I'm going to use my diamond. Again, a times c on top. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. And then negative 13 on bottom. So my two numbers that multiply to get negative 30 and add to get negative 13 are negative 15 and 2. So that means I would start by writing this as x minus 15 times x plus 2. But since I have this a value, I've got to divide both of them by that. Now, should notice a couple things. These don't divide evenly, but they can be reduced. 15 over 6 can be reduced to 5 over 2, and 2 over 6 can be reduced to 1 over 3. You need to reduce them first before you move them out in front of the variable. So now I can move this 2 out in front of the x. So So I have 2x minus 5, and then move the 3 out in front of the x. 3x plus 1. Okay, part B, here we want to look at greatest common factor. So the biggest number that goes into 7 and 21 is 7. Then they also have an x in common. So now if I take out a 7x in that, I'm left with an x minus 21x divided by 7x is 3. And again, you can always check and make sure that works out, because 7x times x is 7x squared. 7x times negative 3 is negative 21x. Now the last one, you can start to recognize that it's the difference of squares, because 9x squared is a perfect square and 4 is a perfect square. So we can go ahead, if it's a perfect square on each of them, we know we're going to have a plus and a minus. The square root of 9x squared is 3x, and the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, number 7, I want to solve the quadratic by factoring. So in order to solve it by factoring, I've got to have 0 on the right hand side. So here I would have to subtract 5 from both sides. So I get 6x squared minus 1x minus 5 equals 0. Then do the diamond. So I've got negative 30 on top, negative 1 on the bottom. So two numbers that multiply to get negative 30 and add to get negative 1 are negative 6 and 5. So I've got x minus 6 and x plus 5, but again I've got an a, so I've got to divide both of these by 6, and it's still equal to 0. Now again, for solving by factoring, it's just going to be the opposite of what's inside the parentheses. So x equals, now 6 divided by 6 is 1, so the opposite of negative 1 is plus 1, so x equals 1. And then that doesn't simplify, so I just put x equals the opposite of that, so negative 5 over 6.